Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is...
Phil, me, and Parrot.
Okay, Phil. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of it. Did you see the latest leaked footage from the Logan film?
No, I have not.
Or leaked image. Okay. It's a bathroom stall.
Okay.
With graffito written upon it. And said graffito says, "Where are all the mutants?" Bum, bum, bum. Now, this is pure speculation. But Phil, where are all the mutants? Where could the mutants have gone? Have the mutants been devastated by some sort of mpox, some sort of legacy virus, or similar outcome? Or have the mutants been undone by one of their own? Remember, Magneto does have a daughter in this universe. She wasn't in the last film. But we did see a little witch girl in the previous one, in Days of Futures Past, I believe. And might she have said no more mutants?
Do you think Marvel would let them get away with that?
Well, that's an interesting question. You see, there's been all this speculation right now about the secret deals in the works between Marvel and Fox, or Disney and Fox. As people have pointed out, Fox wasn't supposed to have TV rights to the mutants. Then all of a sudden they started announcing that they were going to be doing the Legion series, which is what got all the talking going. And once again, there's a lot of talk about whether or not Fox is in the process of negotiation to give the Fantastic Four, Galactus, Skrulls, etc. back to Marvel. Now, this may be pure false, misleading things, but something popped up in my Facebook feed today, which stated that Gwenpool would be in the upcoming Deadpool film. And that Miley Cyrus had been cast as the character.
What?
Well, honestly, I think that's brilliant casting. I think Miley Cyrus would make a fantastic Gwenpool. But what's interesting about that is there's no reason for Fox to have rights to Gwenpool. Gwenpool, even though she has a similar name, is not associated in any way with Deadpool. No part of her origin relates to Deadpool. She didn't first appear in a Mutant or Deadpool book. She was purely a Marvel character. So if she is appearing in the Deadpool film, as was suggested by some random noise in my Facebook feed, so I'm not sure how much I trust it to begin with. But if she is there, then it is possible that that's more part of this agreement that might be being worked out with Marvel. And the idea of allowing, for example, that was like I think that's like along within their rules on the Quicksilver. Like the original idea was that that basically Fox was going to get Quicksilver, Marvel was going to get
Scarlet Witch.
Each would get to use both briefly, but then they had to pick one. Fox got the name Quicksilver, and Marvel got Wanda and Pietro. As to how they're going to break down their names. And I don't think they called her Scarlet Witch throughout Civil War, so that seems to fit within that idea. But when you give that teaser, where are all the mutants? It does suggest that the mutants have gone away, and when you look at all of the history of mutants, it could also mean that they're going to be dealing with mutant concentration camps.
Yes.
That's the other thing is people are asking where are all the mutants because the mutants are all being put onto cattle cars and ridden off by sentinels. But then I think you'd get a little bit more of a Sentinel vibe in here, and we're not getting that.
Plus, they did that in Days of Future Past, too.
Well, exactly. And what I'm seeing here is something that seems much more, based on what they're showing, it seems much more along the lines of mutants just having disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me think either legacy virus or, as I said, no more mutants. I mean, it's pure speculation on our part. But at this point, that's all that anything can do, Whether or not we're going to actually be seeing X-23, that's still speculation. Fact of the matter is, the hand we see in the logo, that's too small to be X-23 as we know her. That's clearly a very small child's hand. Well, I guess it could be a young woman's hand. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I'm not buying into it just yet, is what I'm saying. And where it goes next is going to be kind of interesting. We're going to have to see. My biggest hope, of course, is just that we get a really good Logan film. It definitely seems to be one that they're setting in the future. And, what you can do when you get to the future is always very interesting. Because Days of Future Past, of course, was also set in the future, but this is now a variation on that. And perhaps even shows you that, messing with the timeline, you can avoid one bad future, but maybe the other future you get isn't any better.
Mm-hmm.
To feed into the idea of Ulysses. We can see the future, we can prevent one negative outcome, but maybe something worse happens,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Probably not the Sentinels, like I said, because they were in Days of Future Past, but what if mutants are being, hunted down by someone, Weapon X or...
Well, who we do have in this, who is one of the villains that we know, is Donald Pierce, who is the cyborg.
Yes, Reavers.
Yes, and so that could be it. Could be the Reavers. It could be, it could be that idea, and this idea of you could even build into that in this idea of this conflict between the cybernetic humans, this idea of, the singularity point of moving from organic life to digital life. And that's the kind of conflict, or you could, in that case, even the mutants might even be the heroes of it once humans find out exactly what they're being ushered towards, that Cyberman future, under the rule of King Donald Pierce. You could also be getting Nimrod in there, that would certainly make all of your mutants go away.
Yeah.
There's a lot of very interesting possibilities in what you could get, but I just found it so intriguing, this idea of where are all the mutants, and just to have it as, like I said, as bathroom graffiti, it's such a great teaser. It really makes me get excited for the film. It really does. But, it would be interesting if we do get Wanda there, if we do find a stronger connection between Fox and Marvel. That does suggest that the possibility of a Fantastic Four coming back to the Marvel Universe is a real thing. And it creates this very interesting question about what is the best option for the Fantastic Four. Is that a series that should that be movies, or should that be a Netflix series, or even an ABC series or something like that? I am inclined to think that maybe a serial storyline with the Fantastic Four. I think actually what you can do with the Fantastic Four is, if you do you can do a shifting genre season to season thing, where you can have season one, is the Enter the Mole Man, and it's almost almost like a Stranger Things kind of thing, where it's like them solving the mystery of the monsters in the earth. And then, like, season 2 is more your space opera, where we're going to go to the negative zone. And then season 3 is maybe, something dealing with, Doctor Doom and maybe mysticism, in introducing Agatha Harkness. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things they could definitely do with the Fantastic Four. Because of course no one has ever really done a really good Fantastic Four. I was not disappointed by the first released round of Fantastic Four. I wasn't even that bothered by the Roger Corman Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that none of them were in any way the successes that anybody wanted them to be. I can respect that. I can respect that they weren't. And I can also respect that there were a lot of flaws in them. But along those same lines, of course, what is most missing from the current Marvel Universe is the Fantastic Four. And even if we don't get a Fantastic Four movie, the question of who is going to fill the Fantastic Four's spot in the Marvel Universe is still very strongly front and center, I think. We have discussed the idea of, an infamous Four, led by the infamous Iron Man, with possibly She-Thing, Volcana, and Titania, or, we could put in someone else in there. Ooh, who might make an interesting addition to the infamous Four?
Who?
Scarlet Witch. Or Jean Grey.
Oh, yeah.
Young Jean Grey.
Yes.
Young, easily manipulated, insanely powerful. So you could get like a Volcana as your Human Torch, your Sharon Ventura as your thing, and then a young Jean Grey to be your Invisible Woman, with of course infamous Iron Man as your Mr. Fantastic character. I mean, that could really work solidly.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, I do think that if they are going to do an Infamous Four, you really do want it to be an all-female team around Doom. For some reason, that's just how I see Doom building that team. If for no other reason than just the fact that historically, when he has empowered hench people, they have very often been women. You have the Volcana and Titania from Secret Wars. You had him working very closely with Sharon Ventura. When she was on the Fantastic Four, I can definitely see that, and Doom did have a relationship with Wanda. It's not a healthy relationship at all, but you know what? Truth be told, about unhealthy relationships, people tend to go back to them. So, the idea of Wanda and Doom, even Doom coming to Wanda as saying, "I am a changed man, and I need someone," that when Richards left this world, he left the world in chaos and danger, and it needs someone to be the Four, and the Four against the wall. And I can find us, like I said, Volcana and Sharon Ventura, perfect, Human Torch thing constructs, but he needs someone that can use that telekinetic force of invisible force fields, and I think that's where Wanda could fit in nicely. Or if he's looking for someone he can manipulate a little more easily, perhaps Jean Grey, knowing the power that she can unleash if she can tap into that, because she is bound in some way or another to the Phoenix Force. On some level, I do want to see Titania in there, since I do want to get Volcana in there, because I would really like to see what Volcana's been up to since, her and Owen kind of broke up. But I do understand that then you're getting too much strength on the team, and you don't really have. You're missing someone that can be that subtle influencer as well. So it's a lot of very interesting things. Yeah.
Yeah, but you brought up that when Doom empowers people, it's usually women. Do you think Doom has some kind of issue or something with women?
Oh yes. Well, it was very interesting. Did you see the preview for Infamous Iron Man?
No, I don't think I looked at it yet.
Okay, so it's very interesting because it's Parker Robbins, because this is back in the Cabal, and that's the opening. And we knew that was...
Yeah, I did see this. Yes.
And Parker Robbins is like saying, "Hey, is it true that you went to hell and defeated a minor demon to free your mom?" And Doom's like, "Don't talk about my mom. Don't talk about my mom." And all this kind of stuff. And then banishes him. I think he says he sends him to Taiwan or something. But it does make this. But Parker Robinson raises this really great point. It's like, well, what's your deal now? Because it's like you have more than enough money. You have more, you have a great deal of power if you defeated a demon. Why are you still being a supervillain? It's like, what are you missing that you're chasing after? And I think that's just like such a great analogy. And again, one of these things that shows why Parker Robbins is actually a pretty cool character that just hasn't gotten a good rap yet. I do think Parker Robbins can do so much more in this universe. And we will see more of Parker Robbins. I have no doubt of that. I do think Parker Robbins is coming back somewhere. Perhaps Parker Robbins will lead the Frightful Four against Doom. But this idea that that Doom does have this obsession with his mom. Guy definitely has mommy issues. There's no denying that. And I do think that's interesting in the way that they can pursue how Doom would create an Infamous 4. Now, of course, this is just my speculation. There's been no discussion of an Infamous 4 yet. But to me, it's like, how can Doom not want to form an Infamous 4?
Yeah, because if you're not bringing them back, fill that void with something.
Well, even if there was, that's the thing. It's like Doom is still Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Doom still has to show he is better than Richards.
Yes.
Even though, and especially, not for nothing, Richards, Doom, Richards is like, "Hey, you bought us time that allowed me to fix everything, Doom. It's a good thing that you were there to buy us time so that I could solve the problems and I could restore the universe and I could fix all the things that you couldn't. But thanks for giving us just that little extra time there, Doom. Thanks for holding my seat." It basically is what, Richard said to Doom just before he sent him back to Earth in absolute magnanimity. I'm trying to the adjectival version of magnanimous. Sends him back to Earth and he's fixes his face, just sort of like, putting $50 in his pocket and says, "Hey, buy yourself something nice there, Doomsy." So all that's got to be grating on Doom something fierce right now. And with it grating on Doom, that Doom's got to try and make his mark back. At least that's what I think. I could be wrong. I often am, but I do feel that Doom has got to be thinking about making an Infamous 4. And if he doesn't, I'll just be very disappointed. Other interesting news. Do you have any other thoughts on Doom and an Infamous 4 and what we might see from Doom in the near future, or of a Fantastic Four television series or movie returning to Marvel?
I wish Disney would get the rights to do a Fantastic Four movie, but the whole Infamous thing, I don't know if it's going to happen. I wish it would. I think that is a very interesting idea. They should go with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it writes itself basically, and I think that you and me, I love a villain book, and the idea of the great thing about like Volcana and Sharon Ventura is, yeah, they've done villainous, they've been bad guys, but they've never been villains.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a real interesting differentiation between being a bad guy, being someone who's breaking the laws with your superhuman powers, and being a villain, meaning someone who is actively plotting and scheming some grand, monstrous action. None of these other characters aside from Doom have done that, but they've all worked with Doom in one way or another. we got some interesting news from Feige. I'm sorry, no, from Loeb today about what universe the Iron Fist series is going to be exploring. And it's really going, and what they're saying is, and it's not. It is that the character of the city in Iron Fist will be, the 1% of the 1%, the billionaire class of people, and the realities of their world, and to some extent the reality of young Danny Rand returning. And, I guess there's going to be a plot about how there's not really a way for him to prove himself to be Danny Rand.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. From what I've read about Iron Fist, it looks like it's going to be a really interesting take on it. And I think, a while ago, we were discussing Iron Fist, and I did say, what I thought was one of the great selling points of Iron Fist is just this idea that he is a being who is at peace. He is Zen. He has reached nirvana. And so even though he has wealth and all of these things, they are to a grand extent inconsequential to him. But at the same time, he is returning to New York to claim that fortune for whatever purpose that he may have. And, I'm very excited by what they might be able to do with Iron Fist within that concept. Feige made an interesting point when asked if any of the Defenders would wind up in any of the Avengers films, and he basically just said spoilers, which doesn't really answer the question. But of course, and this is what I said last week, how I do think that the feud between Perlmutter and Feige has ended since Feige got spun off and has his own creative control now. I think that we are seeing the stronger effort towards integration both up and down the universe. Because, not for nothing, everyone knows that's what the fans want. The fans want that crossover. And I think that is something that I think as they're looking at what they're going to be developing, I think that's something that they're a lot more comfortable doing now. And I just love anytime they have any kind of crossover between any of these things. So that's good.
Well, yeah. I mean, they should. I know there's egos involved, but I mean, everyone makes more money, and the fans are happier when people work. Everyone works together.
Yes. Well, an interesting aspect within that, and again, I don't know if this was something that was still during the tug of war when Perlmutter was flexing his muscle and Feige was trying to get out. But there was an interesting thing about the character of Night Nurse, which is that even though it's Rosario Dawson, right, and Luke Cage playing Night Nurse,
yes,
even though they have strongly telegraphed the character of Night Nurse for her, the creator of the show has been on record saying, no, we can't call her Night Nurse because Marvel has other plans for her. It's interesting to have this character that's running around in the Netflix universe that is clearly intended to be this other character of Night Nurse. And, yet they're not letting her be that because Marvel wants to hold on to the character for the movies. Maybe then again, maybe there's not as much collaboration between the two groups as previously thought. Although to that extent, there was this other interesting aspect of that. Again, when we talk about the time frame of it, Luke Cage again is coming out after all the hatchets have been buried between Feige and Perlmutter, and we do see that early on in the series of Luke Cage, Rosario Dawson's character is actively talking about the clinic she would open if she could for superhumans. So I mean, it's maybe they are moving back in that direction, and again, maybe that is good evidence that there's that the feud between the two groups is now subsiding. Oh, okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about this week, Phil?
No, I think that's. No, okay. I can't think of anything else.
Yes. There was one other thing that I thought might be interesting to mention, which is just there was a lot of talk about what Wong was and what the Ancient One was coming up this in the Doctor Strange film. One aspect of the Ancient One is that the character that they wrote for the Ancient One was specifically written and tailored for Tilda Swinton. And saying that if she couldn't have done the film, they would have had to completely rewrite pretty much half the movie, which is interesting for them to say. It's also been said that Doctor Strange will not yet be a master of the mystic arts, and even by the end of the film. So it is interesting that we're going to get some of a learning curve with the Good Doctor. And the other interesting thing they made a mention of was what the Wong relationship with Doctor Strange will be. And it seems like Wong is going to be far more sort of the drill instructor of the mystical army than the butler of it. So that's interesting. How the character of Wong has evolved within this. So that's the news in the Marvel Universe this week. Phil, if they'd like to talk to you about what's new and what's going on in the Marvel comic or cinematic universes, where can they reach out to you?
Well, they can always email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. And just check out all my other podcasts, Before the Bat, Legends of DC, with a bunch of my friends, including Charlie Esser. World's Finest that I do with Lilith Hellfire is now on Channel 52. And just check out my blogs, the True Believers blog all about Marvel, and the Legends of DC blog about DC Comics. You can find all that at southgatemediagroup.com.
Very good. And if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way that our Ma's and Pa's once did, you can do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, if you don't want to email me, you can always tweet along with me at the Twitters at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle for quality. Follow me on Twitter and follow me as I live tweet various shows, including Legends of Tomorrow, which Zachary Hare and I will be doing a podcast on the Legends of DC feed. And, of course, I always like to live tweet The Incredible Hulk on Saturdays on MeTV, because I do the Gamma Cast with Maz Manzur over on the 80s Reboot Overdrive network. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for connecting with us. Please, if you have a moment, take time and connect with us again. Good night.
Good night.